Good evening, everyone, and I moved just recently. And about moving, I remember one time I wanted to move some files or copy them or rename them. I don't quite remember using AutoHotkey, but I thought, oh, I need like a good language like Python or something of that sort to do that kind of thing. So I had a script in Python that I ran with AutoHotkey. Well, it turns out we really don't need that. AutoHotkey is completely capable of moving files, copying them, pretty sure deleting them, and some other things, which I'm going to show you off right now. So we are in a folder. We're gonna create two folders, which we're gonna play around with. Make dir folder 1, folder 2. Let's see if that works. Yes, exactly how I expected it to. So let's go into folder 1 and create a file, text.txt. One day I'll know. Okay. First of all, we will move that file into folder 2. File move. The first parameter is from where, that is C /programming /folder 1, and then you also specify the file name, so text.txt. The second parameter is, as expected, C programming, so to where, to folder 2, and then you have to specify the file name again. And this is key because while we're moving a file, we can actually rename it at the same time. So let's call it something that I can't think of. So this is now going to be renamed, and say it's in txt, we can even change the format by renaming the file. So from being in folder 1 is gonna appear in folder 2 with this name and actually being a markdown file. The third parameter can be very important. By default, if there is already a file at that location with that exact name, nothing will happen. As far as I know, it will stay at the previous location, so this one, and the move will not happen. But if you want to make sure that it does, here you go, you specify true. Perfect. Let's run this code, and now we go to folder 2, and here it is, a new file called differently and with a different extension. So let's open it. There's not much to tell us that it's indeed a markdown file and not just a mask or something. However, I think Vim has highlighting and different coloring. Well, I guess it doesn't. I guess you'll have to trust me on that. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to do the same thing, but without removing it from folder 1. So as we can check out, there's no files in folder 1 anymore. So we can use file copy, which works the same exact way, to copy a file instead. Same third parameter that works the same exact way. But the parameters will be reversed. So now we're gonna copy from folder 2 to folder 1. And now I actually realize that it's probably going to be an easier time looking at this in the GUI. For most people, it's easier to look at a GUI than at a terminal. And that's very understandable. So I'm gonna have these two, exp. By the way, that doesn't work by default. This exp thing I made myself. It's an alias for explorer.exe, and then you specify a folder. So in folder 2, we have this file that we moved from this folder. That's it. We run our script. Here it is, copied and renamed. Different format too. Perfect. Now, say we don't have any files yet, and you want to create a file. Maybe even write something to it. Well, by default, you have to use file open to create a file object, then you write text into that file, and then close that file object. You can specify the properties, basically what you can do with the file object. If you want to write to it, you give yourself write privileges. If you want to append to it, you go A. And to read a file, you use R. Let's go through these. Append file. If the file already exists, yes, indeed, we append to the file. So open it with appending privileges, go to the start of the file, your pointer, so this, at least in VS Code, orange cursor, that's called the pointer when you're working with files and opening them as objects. To make sure you do stuff where you're supposed to, you have to actually move the pointer. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be left in the last place that it was. And I'm not even sure on that. So I was wrong. In append file, we actually move it to the end of the file. We write the text and close the file. And if the file doesn't exist yet, we don't need to specifically append, we can just write the file first. So we open it with write privileges. And then read file, which opens the file with reading privileges, goes to the start, that can be important. We use the read method to get the basically what's inside of the file as a string. We close the file object and return our text. I use these three functions really often when I work with files, and personally that's all I ever needed. With this, I don't have to jumble around with file open and all the seeking, writing, closing. I don't need to do that anymore. I can just use the function, and I recommend you use them too. It's in my repository in lib-v2 in the global file. If you can find a file.ahk, then they're there, because I plan to move them there. Okay, so we can use these to create a new file. So first we will write file, once again programming, first of all C, programming, folder 1, and we will call it differently, .txt. So first we specify the path to the file that we want to write or create if it's not existent yet. And now we specify the text we want to see in a string. So this is a string. Perfect, that's all we need. And now we run that, go to folder 1 and cat this. it indeed exists. Here you go. We just wrote a file. Now, instead of writing a file, we're going to append to it. And we will add something different now. So this is appended, for example. We run the script once again and repeat the last command. And it appended this, which is what we expected. The text that was there before then is still there. The text that I wanted to append is now at the end of the file. Nice. Very, very nice. Now I have a function for testing. Well, for checking things out. It's called out, and the idea of it is to get some input and write it to a file, which is called output. I use it for testing whenever I need to have quite a big amount of data to look through when I test stuff. Usually I use infos like that, but when we are reading a file, for example, they might not be enough. So use output. We're going to use this to check out read file. So we out basically write whatever returns to this file, so we can understand more easily what's happening. So read file, programming, and in folder 1, fdsa.txt. So once again, we specify the path to the file, and using read file, we get the string of what is in that file. Ran the script, boom. This is what we got by using this function. So how you can use this? For example, you want to have two scripts that interact with each other. Maybe one does one thing and the other uses that information to do something else. Now, reading and writing files isn't the best solution, but it's definitely the easiest, and often it's more than enough. This is the same way that JSON works, which I'll show you off in a later video. So, for example, one script calculates something, writes that data into a file, and the main script uses read file to get that input and then does whatever. It's really, really nice. Let me show you an example. So I have a tool, a timer. So I have a way to set a timer. In 1 minute, it will go off. Maybe quite annoyingly. I hope not too much though. So technically, I could just have it in my main script, in this one. But here's the thing, if I ever reload the script, the timer will also disappear, which is not what I want for a timer. So let me get to runner, which is actually the way we do this. So we write to a file that I specify here. We'll give it the input that I gave it here. So I typed in 1, we write 1 to that file, and then we run the timer script. The timer script reads that file, so reads that 1, and I don't remember what that does. Yeah, here you go. And when it goes off, the script exits. As you can see, there's no icon anymore. That's really nice, because if I reloaded the main script while it's going, it would just disappear. And now it doesn't. And the implementation was really easy, and it works great. Better methods for sure exist, but this is quite easy. Let's look at whether file delete exists, because that might be a privilege issue. So, file delete. Yep, indeed, it does work, and you can even set a wildcard. So, matter of fact, I use it. You can either specify the full path to delete a file, or use the asterisk symbol to basically say any name which has the TMP extension. Or the other way around, you have a name and then any extension. If, for example, you have multiple files that have the same name but different extensions and you want to clean up all of them. Matter of fact, you can even specify *** to mean all files in this folder, in this temp folder. There's also dir delete. That works in the same way. Do look at this though, because by default it will just try to delete a folder if it's empty, but if it's filled with more folders or files, well, you will need to use this one. So you can go into later folders and delete from them as well. Right now, let me show you off how I use file delete. First of all, I gotta find that function, and I don't quite remember what it's called. Probably video up, I think. Yeah, so I specify an array of file paths. Raw is a file that I used to use for creating my videos. I don't anymore. Right now, for my main channel videos, I'll actually be creating a repository with the code if I show any, and a readme. So it's not a... Basically now, I won't just be writing the transcript in one file. It will be in multiple repositories. Doesn't really matter. So clean is the text that I get the transcript with all the annotations and all the random stuff that's important when editing, and I remove it to just text that is easy to read when I record the audio. So this file and the description, basically a note file where I put my description so I don't forget anything. Now for every path in this array, write file the actual path. Now what are we actually writing? Thing is, if we don't set text, it starts being an empty string. So we do indeed write the file, but what we write onto it is an empty string, meaning nothing. Write nothing into that file. So now it's empty. The file itself does still exist, which is what I want, but there's nothing inside it. So I don't have to do it manually. And file delete actually does delete all the files. This is the folder for all the screenshots that I take, and stuff like recorded audio, the FL Studio project, so on. Every name, every extension. Basically delete every single file. And here you go. I hope you learned something today, and have a good day. Subscribe if you like my content, leave a like, and most importantly, leave comments if you have a question that you're not sure is worth asking. It definitely is. I'll try my best to answer your question as I can, and thank you for watching my videos. Goodbye.